Ross Day. I was listening to a lecture by Hubbard called The Deterioration of Liberty from 1956. He talks about how he spent time as a beat cop going into all sorts of places and fighting a, quote, Mexican man who was drunk and was high on marijuana. I'm sure there is little to no evidence for LRH actually being a beat cop, but if you know something on the subject, I'd be very interested to know. Okay, Ross, thank you for this question. And actually, I am going to turn to the Tony Ortega blog, The Underground Bunker, and a wonderful write-up, which I am linking in the show notes here on YouTube and at my website. This is from October 30th, 2017. And I looked this up because I had some vague recall, some recollection of this. But I thought this was such a great and well-researched article from Chris Owen, who has done some really championship Scientology historical work, that I would just quote from this. Because Hubbard was not a beat cop, okay? But I thought you guys would get a little bit of a kick out of how he exaggerated what he was. And what happened, okay? So, because there are some quotes here that Owen put into this article that are very clear. Hubbard was making very clear claims about being a cop. He referred several times in his lectures and writings, and I'm reading from Owen's article here. Referred several times in his lectures and writings to his work as a police officer in Los Angeles. In a lecture from July 4th, 1958, he told his audience, I investigated the police one time. I became a cop. That's a direct quote. He said on a different occasion, November 22nd, 1956, that during the development of Dianetics, he thought it might be, quote, he thought it might be an awfully good thing to become a member of a police force for a little while to find out what they were scared of. And I did. Became a special officer in the Los Angeles police, as I just mentioned. I wanted to find where these vicious criminals were that were making them so frightened, end quote. His purpose in becoming a police officer for a short time, he wrote in Professional Auditor Bulletin of 1954, was, quote, in order to observe criminality. In 1961, he told Scientologists that he had, quote, operated down in parts of Los Angeles, South Alvarado, and Maine, and that sort of thing, quote. He described the area as the seamiest, lousiest, scummiest skid row in the world, where it's as much as your life's worth to go down there on a weekend, hang around those bars and gin mills and marijuana joints. They just stack up the bodies like cordwood. It's nothing. You pick up some guy in the corner and he's cut from ear to ear and bleeding gore all over the pavement. Nobody's paying a bit of attention to him. That is too usual. End quote. That's, again, Hubbard going on, painting this picture of what it was like down in the, well, here's the other thing he said. Hubbard's beat was, quote, down on South Main Street, among the gyps, griffs, and the dopes, the hopheads, and the tea-eaters, and the rest of them. The lowest strata of humanity that comes across from the lowest strata of Mexico to mingle with the lowest strata of Los Angeles, end quote. So he tells a bunch of anecdotes and various things about how he was a special officer and how he was so good at breaking up fights and keeping the peace that they were basically throwing money at him, trying to keep him from doing this. And he said he found this hugely amusing. Owens right here writes in this article, in a moment of perhaps unintentional honesty, Hubbard admitted, quote, boy, that's the biggest fraudulence I ever pulled in my life. Because the truth is that Hubbard was never a police officer in any way, shape, or form. He was an employee of a private company called the Metropolitan Detective Agency, which was founded in Monterey in 1936 and is still operating today. And it's a private security company. And what do? They provide patrol and guard services to the city of Los Angeles and businesses in different districts. So in other words, the big punchline here is that Hubbard was a security guard. And he called himself a cop, and he related these anecdotes as though he was a special police officer, and he wasn't. He was a liar. And this is just a great little example of how you can pull these quotes out of these lectures over the years that Hubbard just repeatedly paints this picture of this past fantasy of his life. While he was doing the security guard thing, he tried to pass off a bad check, got busted, got arrested, had to go pay a fine. At first, he pled not guilty, then he changed it to guilty. He admitted he did it. And that's the sort of thing that's going to get you fired from a job like this or let go. So he didn't even do this security guard job competently and well. He didn't have the moral character or fortitude to even be a security guard. That was L. Ron Hubbard. So that was why I took this question up and thought you might find the answer enjoyable. So you can check out the full story at the link below.